Hey, what's up, guys? This is a live stream on January 22nd, and we're going to talk about things such as expectations for your very first job, and some of the kind of like the troubles and issues that you might run into, and the certain types of people that you'll meet in your first job. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started with the live stream today. Hopefully, I am live. I'm checking the YouTube stream, and I see quite a few people on the channel right now. 28. 28 of you guys are currently logged in to check out what I have to say today. More like 21 YouTubers. So let me just move my window over here. And yes, I do have a little bit of the sniffles. I guess in general, my voice is a little nasally, which is could be a problem, but nothing that we can't overcome. Oh, all right. So how many of you guys are able to hear me as I'm talking into the stream? And how are you guys doing today? Hello, guys. So I'm trying to make the chat a little bit more legible in terms of the size of the little chat box guy. Hopefully that's a lot more easy to read. I know some of you guys said that the little chat box was a little bit small. I'm trying to fit as many questions in there as possible. Let's see, what does that look like? That's a little too small. I guess that's okay on your guys' screen. All right, so we got 32 YouTubers watching right now. I'm basically waiting for a little bit more of you guys to join in, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started on today's live stream. So first of all, thank you for joining. We're going to talk about some things that you might run into as a kind of an engineer on your very first job, and kind of what to expect in terms of, how to set up your laptop, what kind of people you'll meet, dress code, and are you going to be able to do the job correctly? And how well you can do the job really depends on how much effort you put into learning the system, learning the various software packages that that company uses. In terms of the entire stack of technologies, you don't have to learn everything, but my suggestions are to learn how the server works, learn how the Android application works. And I'm talking from the point of view of joining the company as an iOS engineer, which most of you guys are probably looking down that direction in terms of the career path. All right, so back into the chat here. All right, how many of you guys are college students right now? Just kind of curious. I know I asked this last time, but it's always interesting to see what the demographic of the YouTube audience is. All right, all right. All right, so we have Alexander here, Olival. So it looks like you recently graduated, huh? All right, and we have Eric here, and also we got Dennis Mueller as a college computer science student as well. Okay. All right, so we have a question from Faizul. What is my birthplace? So my birthplace is in this city. It's actually the capital of California. It's called Sacramento, and I was born in Sacramento in the '80s, early '80s. So that kind of tells you how old I am. Okay. Just found out my friends refer your channel for iOS. Oh, well, go ahead and help me thank some of your friends. Yeah, if any of you guys have any other like developers that want to learn about iOS, obviously tell them about this channel and try to get them to, watch some of the videos and learn from the channel, I guess. All right. So let's go ahead and start out with the very first thing that I have on my list of first job expectations, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is sort of dress code and how you should present yourself as an engineer. Sometimes what you'll find is that people either overdress or they underdress for their very first day. And I would say, obviously, try to err on the side of overdressing, but definitely don't go overboard. For example, if you wear a suit or something, that's probably a little bit overdressing. So here I have try to dress professional on your very first day at work, but don't wear a suit because that's just a little too much. Definitely do put on a nice, kind of a nice dress shirt, button up, has a collar, that would be nice. And then try to match that with like dark jeans or dark pants. And that could be your very first day dress attire. And then, so a polo shirt can work too. And it says here, I would avoid wearing sandals and t-shirts until you get a better sense as to what the office dress code is. And what you'll find is that most of the engineers at your whatever workplace, a lot of them will find you'll find that they do come into work in shorts, sandals, and a raggedy t-shirt, and that's perfectly okay. Being an engineer in whatever city you are, most of the engineers dress very, very relaxed and comfortable because in order to kind of program and code, you don't want to feel too restrictive in terms of the things that you're wearing. Basically, you want to be as relaxed as you can, but definitely don't over relax on your very first week because that can give the wrong impression to other people at the office. You definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so we have someone that says bow tie. I definitely do not recommend wearing a bow tie to work. Well, if it's your style, then go ahead and wear a bow tie. It's actually okay if it's your style, but it's not a gala, or it's not like going to the prom for the very first time. Do not overdress in a suit and tux. All right. So that's interesting, and the reason why I bring this up is that a lot of new employees and interns that I have kind of hired and seen in the past, sometimes they will overdress, and that's okay. But the ones that underdress are the ones that are, it's not that they're not good engineers, but it gives a sense of sort of non-professionalism. All right, so what's the next question that we have here? All right, the next very interesting thing about your very first job is getting your first computer from the company. And what will happen is that the company laptop that you get will be completely wiped of the previous person's data. And then sometimes you'll be lucky enough to get a brand new laptop, which is more or less the same thing. So let me just read this guy off here. Most likely you'll get your direct supervisor is going to give you a long list of software packages to install in order to set up the proper development environment for the company or for the whatever software that they produce. And then something that they won't really tell you is that when they give you this guide on how to install, package A, package B, package C, and then try to run all this stuff together, they're really testing you on your skills of whether or not you can install the entire package and the entire stack on your computer without having to ask them too many questions. And it's kind of my recommendation to go through this entire guide without bothering anyone else too much. And what you'll find is that the more you can get through by yourself and the less questions that you have, the more kind of, you get a little bit more respect and some kind of bonus points, if you will, from your boss. All right. All right, so I kind of want to talk about first assignments as well. Let me go back to the questions here. All right, we have the Zandy, graduated 2014 and went to boot camp, started my first iOS engineering position 3 weeks ago. All right, that's pretty awesome. Congratulations on your job. And yeah, being your very first, it kind of depends on if it's your very first job or was this a career switch of some kind? Yeah. Graduated a few months ago from the boot camp. So we have a lot of boot camp students coming in to this channel. I think the original idea that I had for this YouTube channel was to provide some extra resources for bootcamp students that have graduated bootcamp and don't really know where to go. So my experience with bootcamp is that while the students learn a lot, they still don't have the necessary experience that they need to kind of take the raw bootcamp instruction and then build it into something that's a lot more presentable. All right, so we have George Casariego. That Kindle course, which he's talking about, is the thing that you're seeing on the Chrome browser right there. For the most part, it's kind of complete, but it's missing a couple of videos on how to change the UI to match what the Kindle UI looks like. So I'm going to put a couple more videos on the course next week. Hopefully you guys will purchase the course and enjoy the lessons that are inside of the course. All right, so one question here. Is it hard to get an iOS job? Is it hard to get an iOS job with an associate's degree? So that's a good question. And I don't really know what an associate's degree is anymore. Yeah, if someone can define what an associate's degree is. Oh, sorry guys. I'm having a bad day with my voice right now. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you guys for all of the support. It's definitely been helpful in terms of trying to figure out what videos to make, what kind of videos you guys like. So some of you guys probably noticed lately the channel has some changes in terms of the content. It's not just tutorial based anymore. There's going to be a lot more career type of videos and advice as to salary and what type of engineer you should be. I think that's definitely very helpful. And in today's YouTube age and video age, having this information put onto a platform such as YouTube or on my website is definitely helpful. I think if I had a resource like this when I was just out of college, like 2008, would have helped me a lot in terms of figuring out what to do as my, getting my first job as a programmer and what to expect. what type of salary should I ask for, and how to navigate my very first couple of years as a programmer. Definitely helpful stuff. Okay, what else do we have? All right, let me move on to the first assignments question right here. So some of you guys are probably wondering, as your very first job as an engineer, what type of assignment you'll be working on your very first week or so. So here it says, your very first couple of assignments will be to fix existing bugs inside of the current system. So the current system is probably broken in some places. For example, if you're working on like an e-commerce website, right? A lot of the shipping, the ordering, the purchasing, the payment system, it probably works like maybe 95% of the time. And then there are the 5% of the use cases where something just doesn't work. For example, shipping on a certain order that hasn't been fulfilled, or there's no stock for that order. Sometimes you might run into these errors, right? And the system is probably going to be really, really complicated to the point where you don't know exactly how to fix the issue. So the very first task you'll get as a new engineer is to fix these bugs inside of the system. And obviously on your very first week, you're probably not going to know what the bug is exactly and how it kind of works with the particular language that you're using. So yeah, it's going to be a little hard if you don't have a mentor at the job. So basically, they're going to have this bug tracking system, and a lot of companies use this thing called Jira by Atlassian, and they're going to assign some tasks in Jira, and then you're going to be left to fix those bugs for the next couple of hours of the day, and then also the next couple of weeks is kind of for you to ramp up and figure out how the system works. Yeah. And then we have this thing right here. Usually companies are really busy and senior engineers are kind of putting out fires. So you are more or less left to your own devices in terms of trying to figure out how everything is put together. Yeah, so the very first job that I had, which was really difficult in terms of bug fixing, sometimes if you don't know what the software does, so for example, you might join a company and then the software is really difficult. So, and if you don't know how to fix the bugs, you don't know how the system works, it's helpful if you ask a lot of the other peers at the company. Yeah, it's hard if you don't know how the software works. It's kind of why I would recommend joining a company where the software is easier to fix or easier to understand. All right, back to the questions here. So this is a question that I often get asked. Which MacBook would you prefer to code with? MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, or MacBook? Price isn't an issue. So the MacBook that I use right now is a 2013 MacBook Pro, and it has all of the specs kind of pushed to the max. I don't program on my laptop a whole lot, so I use this big old keyboard right here, and then I use a old school mouse like this. So I would show you my screen as well, but I can't lift the screen up right now, obviously. And then my laptop is just fully closed for 24 hours a day most of the time. So I haven't really programmed on my laptop too much, except for the times where I go to a coffee shop and just sit there with my laptop. And then during those times, when I have just my laptop, it's really nice to have the bigger 15-inch screen. And then sometimes what you'll find is that I'll also turn off the Retina mode, and then I can have a much bigger screen resolution, so I can fit more, Chrome browsers, and then we have Xcode editor, the simulator, and so it's really helpful to have bigger resolution sizes. All right. So we have Jen Su. Jen Su. Start with MacBook Pro, but you can code on any recent Mac. Yeah, if you want to buy a MacBook Air or the new 13-inch one, I would recommend that as the smaller of the laptop sizes. It's a really big advantage to have a smaller laptop because so my typical day at an engineering job would be me walking to the nearest train station and then having to carry the laptop in my bag, right? After a while, the 15-inch laptop gets really, really heavy. So having the 13-inch is like so much lighter, makes it so much easier to walk to the train station. And then sometimes I'll bike to work as well. So having the smaller laptop on my back as I'm biking is, more convenient. But obviously you lose out on the resolution. All right, so we have another question right here. Is it possible to combine Firebase real-time database and storage? That's a pretty strange question. Sometimes you get these strange questions that don't make whole lot of sense because the technologies are, Firebase is real time, so obviously yes. All right, so algorithms and data structure is important, so please making videos on algorithms and data storage with practical use in app. Yeah, hopefully you Mahavir, hopefully you checked out that last video on the array algorithm on how to wrap elements inside of that array around itself. One tricky part about algorithms is that most of the time they're incredibly theory based, and if you don't have the right context in which the algorithm is helpful, then it's hard to sort of understand. It's hard to get me motivated to learn how to use that particular algorithm. But maybe that's just me. All right, so we have Razul Tazul. Where's this first question? All right, please tell me how the future looks for an Android developer who is just starting out and what kind of salary to expect. So hopefully a lot of you guys watched the salary video that I shot 2 weeks ago. And I find that the typical Android salary versus the iOS salary is relatively the same. The only difference between Android and iOS is that in America, you'll probably find more. I don't want to say more, but most companies in America have to have an iOS app. There are companies outside of America that probably don't need an iOS app because most people probably don't have iPhones, right? So in a third world developing country, they don't have access to these expensive iOS devices. So in those companies, if you are an Android, or in those countries, if you're an Android developer, you probably have a higher chance of success, perhaps. All right, so we have Igor. We have Igor. What kind of keyboard was that? So if you guys can see this keyboard right here, it is a full-size Apple keyboard. And the reason why I have the full size instead of the wireless one is this keyboard section right here with a number pad. This is extremely helpful for when you need to punch in a series of numbers. The other thing that's nice about this full-size keyboard is the arrow keys on this side. So you see this is really, I guess this is a better way to, where are you? So these arrows right here, Having full-size arrows when I'm coding is extremely helpful. The little arrow pad on the laptop and the smaller keyboard, it's just extremely hard to use. The other thing I like about it is that there's a dedicated delete button right here. And you'll find that I often use delete a lot to delete right, and then having the backspace to delete left. So having those two keys are extremely helpful. Also, the function key is right here, and most of the time my right hand is near the function key. And kind of like what I said in that storyboard video, I use the keyboard extremely quickly. So having all of these keys accessible right where I want them to be makes developing apps a lot more productive. Just a good use of time. So that's kind of why I like to use the keyboard, programming. And yeah, it makes it a lot easier to program. See how my cords are all tangled up now. Where are you going? Okay. All right. Okay, on to the next question here. So, happy hours. I am sort of wondering if you guys know what happy hours are. Hopefully, the American culture has permeated itself throughout the entire world. I mean, happy hours is not an American specific tradition, but it's definitely it's what we do in order to relieve stress from the workplace. And I think it's a lot of fun. So happy hours will be a lot of fun, especially if your company can afford to have an open tab. So an open tab is when you go to the bar and if the company opens up a tab for all of the employees to order whatever drinks they want, then you pretty much have a free evening of drinks that you can order at the bar. So it's a lot of fun, especially when you have nice employees to hang out with and drink with. Being able to just order whatever you want for your friends at the job, it's very, very fun. So at the happy hour, it's actually the time where you get to mingle with other employees in the company, especially other team members that you rarely have contact with. And one recommendation I do have is to try to get to know the CEO and the other higher ups at this particular company. And more importantly, try to talk to them about the expectations they have of you when you join the company, obviously, and try to see what kind of problems they're running into, and what are the major issues that they face right now. And obviously, what do we have here? So I'm just looking at some emails here. Yeah, it's a lot of fun if you get to know the people at the office. Sometimes what I find is engineers are a little more introverted in terms of personality. Obviously, not all engineers are introverted. And hopefully, being able to go to these happy hours, meeting people, you'll find that being social is one aspect of your very first job that you have to get good at. Being social is an important part of the job, I think. So try to be as social as possible. At the same time, don't waste your time socializing with people that you shouldn't be socializing with. All right, so I'm giving like really, really, what is it here? The advice I'm giving obviously works for me, but might not work for everyone. All right, so a question from Haroon Nadiri. It says, hey Brian, do you still do meetups in San Francisco Bay Area? So I created this meetup group. I don't know if you guys know meetup.com, but I had this meetup group, and you have to actually pay for meetup and sign up and set up all these meetup events. Not expensive, but what I found was that going to San Francisco, where all of the free conference meeting rooms were, took a lot of effort because I don't exactly live in San Francisco. I live one city away. So going there takes an hour, and then setting up all the materials to present during that day also takes like another hour, and then being at the meetup takes a couple of hours, and then going back home takes another couple of, or it takes an hour or two. So, and then I had to register that conference area in like the public library or something. So a lot of effort went into setting up those meetups, and I found that the turnout was pretty good too. Roughly 15 people would join and come to the actual meetup. Um, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So yeah, and then I decided to, well, uh, my meetup, what do you call it? The account sort of expired, so I don't hold the meetup anymore. All right, all right. So Jen Su, our company, we don't talk about problems during happy hours. It is too stressful, huh? You know, obviously, don't talk about problems that you can't talk about. But well, here's what I kind of have to say. After a couple of drinks, all the problems will start to spill out, regardless of it being stressful or not. That's kind of what the alcohol does to you. I've certainly been a victim of alcohol and the ill effects of alcohol. Okay, any thoughts, opinions on doing some videos on watch OS apps? So I don't have a watch OS watch, and I'm just not a big fan of wearing things on my wrist. The one thing that happens when I wear a watch is that it constantly hits the keyboard when I'm typing. It's like it's right here, it hits the keyboard, and it just really, really bugs the hell out of me. So that's kind of why I don't wear any type of wrist decorations. All right. So we have MGTLA. Thank you for all the value you offer. Question: do you think learning backend like Firebase will be useful for companies scaling apps? Should we get a different server experience? Okay, so here's the thing with Firebase. I think Firebase is a very useful technology, but at the same time, it's very niche, or it's very specific to how Firebase is kind of set up. If you have experience learning something that uses MySQL, such as PHP, Rails, or Google Golang, or some kind of Java setup, or Node.js, those particular technologies are more traditional, and you'll find that once you learn one language, one vertical, such as PHP, to interact with MySQL, you pretty much know how to use it with Node, Golang, and Rails. If you learn Firebase, all you know is Firebase. So if the company isn't using Firebase, you're more or less at a disadvantage in terms of them trying to hire you as an iOS engineer with their particular database server stack. So while it's useful to know Firebase, it's not very advantageous to you during the interview process. All right, so we have Jose Anthony. How many hours should a beginner spend coding at the least a day, according to you? That's a strangely worded question. So in terms of beginning and starting out as a programmer, you should code as much as you can. Turn on this lamp right here. I think just trying to build whatever you want, a couple of hours a day is going to be helpful. Wow, a lot of questions here, huh? So we have Amir Shah. Since you are a brilliant programmer, why you are not starting a company? That's a good question. This question comes off as sort of passive aggressive, uh, even though you probably don't mean it to come off that way, right? Why are you not starting a company? Since you are a brilliant programmer, why are you not starting a company? Does that sound passive aggressive, or is it just me? So one thing I kind of wanted to say about that little note there is that I don't really think that I'm that much of a great programmer, um, because I've worked with a lot of really, really good programmers, and most of them can do what I do, but 10 times better. And so, what I mean by being a better programmer is someone that knows how to kind of break down exactly how the system works from a low, low level. For example, if you're programming iOS, right? You know how to build table views, you know how to build collection views, you know how to do everything with the storyboard, and you know how to use core data, you know how to do all this stuff that is what a typical engineer, iOS engineer, needs to know how to do. And then there are engineers that dig deeper, and you have this thing called XC tool or whatever the build process tool chain is called. And then engineers will dive into the build chain, and then we'll be able to make the tool chain build out these whatever version that they want based on the terminal, and then upload the build onto some kind of cloud server where all of these devices can access it without using test flight, something complicated like this. And then engineers will be able to figure out how all of this works just on their own time. They don't really, they're not given this task to figure out how the toolchain builds the iOS bundle package, and they just know how to do all this. So I didn't really enjoy doing that, but a lot of engineers know how to break down the system from inside out, which is really impressive. Um, and then, so one thing that kind of separates me from other engineers is that I, while I'm not that good at breaking down systems, I can do other things somewhat okay. For example, knowing how to use Photoshop to create these silly thumbnails, knowing how to, shoot videos and putting them online, and then building out the website to support everything. Uh, it takes a different mindset to work on different things and to get good at certain other aspects. Uh, yeah, so Sid here says that he's already started a company. So you notice the website, the channel, all of the code, and then now we have the Kindle course, which is something that you can purchase, right? So yeah, I do consider this channel a company. It's also registered as a company, so yeah, it's a company itself. And eventually, what the channel is going to turn into is going to be a bigger platform where you guys will be able to learn how to program a little bit smarter and more reflective. Or I guess, yeah, I have other things that I want to put up on the website that I haven't shown you guys yet, obviously. And once those tools are ready, then it's going to be a lot more exciting because there's going to be something like a real API that you guys can play around with. So once that's ready, I feel like the channel is really going to be a lot, like, even better. Yeah. So from Matthew Houston, do you watch TV or would you rather program and craft your skill? Uh, and like I mentioned in the previous videos, I don't really watch TV so much. I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, obviously, because I'm on YouTube myself. And watching YouTube videos are important for me because, first of all, they're like super entertaining, right? We live in the age of YouTube and short 10-minute clips. So I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, and that is kind of my TV and my outlet. Um, but at the same time, I watch YouTube videos a lot to kind of see how they shoot their videos, kind of how they make their videos like super entertaining. And I try to pick up on how they edit their videos as well. But obviously, I'm not a videographer, and most of my time is spent on programming and setting up these projects. So eventually, maybe I'll get someone to do the video for me. Yeah. But it's been a really, really fun process trying to figure out the YouTube process. Okay, so let's move on to this other question that I have here that I think is important. So, taking initiative at the job is super, super useful. And so as an engineer, make sure you take the initiative to learn how all these systems work together to make the software run. If, for example, if there is something wrong with the server code, take a stab at debugging the issue before you report the problem to whoever you need to report it to. I think you're going to get a lot of bonus points for being sort of a great team player at the company. So a lot of the interns and a lot of the junior engineers that I've mentored in the past, at companies, the ones that really, really stand out are the ones that don't always come to you when there's a problem. The ones that fix the issue on the server side, and then they fix the issue on the database layer, and then they fix the Android issue, all at the same time while they were hired to be an iOS engineer. Those engineers really stand out. And usually those engineers get promoted before the ones that are just working on their specific stack. And then, hopefully you guys can follow that direction in terms of developing your careers. Yeah. So there's this guy that I was watching on YouTube the other day, Simon Sinek, and he's always talking about helping people and being, showing empathy, showing passion towards just helping your fellow employees and fellow team members develop their own careers. And when you do that, that's when you feel satisfied and you feel content, and then you feel like as you have this overall sense of accomplishment in terms of what you're doing at the job. Like being able to write code, build out features, and all that stuff, it's part of the job, but you don't feel so much passion about it until you start helping other people out. That's kind of why I have this channel. I just want to help people, as cheesy as it sounds. Okay. Okay, so next question we have, can you make an in-depth tutorial on layout UI views? So laying out UI views is not that hard, surprisingly. If you know how to use that anchoring method that I use, then laying out these subviews here, 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 it's quite easy to do most of the time. I think anyways. But I've thought about creating a separate video on really, really complicated UI layouts. And then perhaps I'll shoot a couple of videos on that. So I have a question. Should I attend a bootcamp? If you go on my channel and you watch that video on bootcamps, I think I released it last Thursday, I definitely would recommend going to bootcamp if you have the option to attend one. So I used to teach at the bootcamp, and you obviously have to give a lot of time and effort, and you have to dedicate a lot of yourself to the bootcamp. So I think that is helpful. Okay, so we have this question here that I always get. Why do you always use collection view? I'm not going to answer that today. Basically, UI collection view has a lot more functionality than a table view, and they're just as easy to set up. Okay. Okay. In experience with ad networks, I've been using AdMob because it ties nicely with Firebase. So I've been also using AdMob, and for the most part, it's pretty easy to implement inside of your application. Just takes a couple of lines of code. The hardest part is setting up the AdSense code, because it requires like another website, and then you have to register your company under that AdSense account. I feel like at any time you have to jump outside of the world of programming, it gets a little more difficult. Okay, Joseph Molina, do you know Android? Yeah, I built out an Android app that made a couple $100,000 a month. Was that a month? Yeah, a month for this company called Touch of Modern. It probably makes him a couple of $1 million a month now. Uh, yeah. Okay, shouldn't we use storyboards? What are the benefits? You could probably go check out that video I made on why or 10 reasons why I don't use storyboards. I guess let me reiterate some things that I didn't say on that video. And the major issue with storyboards, I find, especially when you're trying to learn how to be an iOS programmer, is that you're missing the programming part of being a programmer. So one huge thing that I left out in that video that I should have included is that when you are learning how to program, it's very important to be able to see exactly what one line of code does, right? And if you're just dragging things onto the screen, that's like kind of helpful. What you'll find is that you start to lose understanding the more complicated the drag and drop tool is. The more sophisticated the editor is, the less you know about what is truly going on, because they obscure most of the code that is actually being called with those tools. And the way to learn how to program is to go line by line, and to know exactly what one line of code does, you kind of remember this intuitively after you do it for a while. Yeah, so there's something about actually typing things out on the screen or typing out in code that makes the process of programming more fun, right? If you're not a programmer, I guess you'll prefer dragging things onto the screen. But if you're a true programmer, you want to type out code. It's a lot of fun. All right. So I'm just checking my phone here. We have a couple of more purchases of the Kindle basic training course. Yeah. So I've set up my server every time a purchase goes through to the Kindle course website. I get a little email about it, and it tells me who purchases what. So one thing I would do want to show you guys is how much it costs to host one of these websites. And I host my website on Heroku.com. Some of you guys probably know Heroku, but basically it just provides you a server that you can launch your server code on, right? And then I use AWS to host all of these images. And then I use Stripe to process the payments right now. The one question I kind of have is that you guys probably do prefer something like PayPal, right? And so I'm currently trying to integrate PayPal right now. But the issue right now is PayPal is not allowing me to process digital goods. And so the courses that I have on my website, they're obviously considered digital. And so I have to authorize my account to be able to process these payments. And once I do that, you guys should hopefully be able to purchase it with PayPal. Failed to create new customer. Yeah. Yeah, I have to check out what the processing errors are. I think it might be because if the credit card number isn't correct, then you might get a strange error message. But it's secure. The way that the credit card processing works is because of PCI compliance, you're not able to store credit card information on your servers. So what I do is I use Stripe, and Stripe handles the payment for me. And so I don't keep any of your guys' credit card information on my server. And what that looks like is, if I can show what that looks like right here. Let me see if I can move myself. Can I move myself? No, I can't. Let's see, where are you? Wow. Okay, let me see if I can move myself over here. There. Okay, here. And so what does the course payment look like? Where are you? So you try to purchase the course here, and then it takes you to this thing, which is not laid out perfect. But it looks like that, right? Yeah, so all the information that you fill out in this form, I don't keep that information on my server at all. And that's due to, like I said, credit card payment compliance. And if you decide to keep all this information on your server, you have to go through an audit check every couple of months or once a year. And so basically they're going to ask you like, oh, why are you keeping this information? Is it secure? Have you gone through all of the necessary steps to make sure that the information is indeed secure? So I obviously don't want to do that, so I let Stripe handle that for me. And if you guys are interested in handling credit card payments online, go to Stripe, use the Stripe platform. The only thing that's, well, it's not even a problem, but it's just a cost of doing business. Stripe is going to take 3% of whatever charge you charge your customers. So if you're charging something like $20 for this course here, Stripe automatically takes 60 cents out of the payment, and then they also take an additional 30 cents for processing any type of payment. So that's how Stripe works if you guys are interested in setting up your own store. So I get this other question a lot: why don't I host my course on Udemy or Udacity or what are the other websites? So the reason why I don't do that is because the website is my own platform, and I don't want to use Udemy. Udemy has extremely confusing rules to their website. I don't want to be stuck with all of the other little lame courses that are on Udemy. But obviously the downside, well, it's not even a downside, but you have to build out the entire platform, the website, make sure everything's secure. And then you have to make sure you take PayPal payments, which currently the website doesn't take. So while it does take a lot of effort to build out the website and set up this platform, I found it like pretty fun to build it all up. Like there's now this commenting section on the website. I get notifications as to whenever a new question comes in, so I can answer you guys a lot easier. And then I've been able to set up the email system to email you, email me every time a reply comes in. And something like this, a system that's totally custom, you can't build that into Udemy because you don't control the platform. And for a lot of you guys that are trying to become engineers, once you're able to understand how all of these tools are put together, you are more likely to build the entire system yourself just because you have full control. And then this goes back to the whole storyboarding concept. I like to have full control over my program, especially because when something goes wrong, I know exactly how to fix it. All right, so we have another question. Doesn't Apple recommend us to use storyboard first and then coding? I don't even know if they recommend you to code at all. What happens is they use a storyboard, and then in conjunction with the storyboard, they'll have some set of code. I don't really know if this is just because they are trying to target a beginner audience. But my whole take on it is that eventually, after you get over the storyboard phase, you're going to start using coding more and more. And after a couple of, maybe a year or so, you're going to realize, oh, I can just do everything in code. For example, creating a new collection view controller or whatever controller, you have to create this new storyboard file, drag in this controller, rename the class, and then register some cells in there, right? I can do all that in like one line of code, which takes like half a second. So that's why I don't prefer using storyboards. Like literally just typing class and then subclassing this data source controller, I get everything that doing all the 10 steps of storyboarding takes. And that's kind of the beauty of programming, right? You eliminate all the inefficiencies of doing things manually, and you get to set up whatever you want. All right, so enough about storyboards. I think I kind of promised that I wouldn't answer any more storyboard questions, but it's always an interesting topic. All right, so Braintree is an alternative for Stripe. Braintree, Yeah, Braintree is a company owned by PayPal, or is it the other way around? Braintree owns PayPal, or PayPal owns Braintree? Not really sure, but their their documentation is just not easy to follow. So let me show you guys what I mean. So PayPal documentation, right? I don't know if I can actually surf a website right now. Usually when I'm trying to stream and do something else, it doesn't really do it well. Okay, moving on to the next question here. Well, actually, the last question. All right, long hours. So let me just read off this answer here. All right, long hours. Expect to say long hours, pushing out features that have a deadline. Make sure you are communicating your problems with the right team members so that they can unblock you as early as they can in the development lifecycle. Looks like Google is down here. Yeah, so when you're on your first job and you get it at 9 and then you leave at 5, that's pretty typical for other positions. And it's perfectly okay if you want to just start at 9 and leave at 5. The important part about engineering is that it's more task based and like feature set based in terms of goals, right? So if you're working at a company doing something like stocking the shelves at a particular warehouse, you just need to stock all of the things until it hits 5 o'clock. If you're an engineer, you have to be more conscious about putting out features that impact the business from day to day. And if you can make a feature that increases productivity of someone else or increases sales revenue, you have to be able to push it out as early as possible. Technology moves at a very, very fast pace. So what happens is that in order to build out these features, you have to stay at the office, not every day, but sometimes you have to work long evening hours, and then sometimes you have to work weekends to push out these features. I don't know. For me, I think that's extremely nice place to kind of develop your skills. But it certainly is it's a job that really, if you have kids and all that, you can't really stay long hours, right? So you have to figure out how to make everything work, which is good. Okay, so another question. How long did it take you to build out the site? Okay, that's a good question. I do want to make another video on how the website works and how much it costs to host the website. I think it'll be interesting for you guys to kind of figure out the pricing and all that. So how long did it take to build out the website? So let's start from the beginning. I had this website that was hosted, I guess, a WordPress. I was using WordPress for a while. And the reason why it's easier to use WordPress is that you just press a button, you pay like $10 a month, and you get this whole WordPress website. And then it looks somewhat okay depending on the theme that you pick. So everyone tells you to use WordPress as your kind of first platform for getting things started. So obviously WordPress is pretty easy to use, super helpful to have something at the very beginning. And then what happened was I needed a lot of my own custom features and custom linking, custom commenting, how to host these source code zip files. Doing all that while possible in WordPress, I wasn't able to do it fast. So I built out the website to make sure that I can put all of the content on somewhere really quickly. And then the first version of the website is not all that great looking. I'm not saying it looks great now, but it definitely has more design now. And perhaps in the future I'll hire a designer to help me design the website. But overall, it took a year to put together what you see right now. A year? No, it probably took 6 months to put together that entire website. So the first half of 2016, I had the WordPress site. And then the second half, I built out this entire site using React, and Google Golang. That's kind of when I decided to invest in that technology. Um, yeah. So obviously, I worked on these websites before in the past at an e-commerce job, so I know how all of it works. Definitely had prior knowledge in building out the website, which made it a lot easier. Okay, so here's another interesting question. Hey, recently I've had a bad situation when I've created an app for one guy and he hasn't paid for my work, and now he just ignores me. People never start working without a normal agreement. You do find a lot of this does happen in terms of the like contracting consulting world. So I would highly suggest being paid a down payment or a deposit on your app before you start to do any work. Now, I know a lot of you guys that are seeking just experience probably will forego the deposit and you sort of just trust everyone, but I don't trust a lot of people. And it's actually your job as a contractor to provide the specific contract and then the agreements as to feature A, B, C, and D. And then you have to provide a payment schedule for all of these features. If you outline all of this out, you'll find that people that are willing to work with you will respect you a lot more because you look a lot more professional and they know what to expect in terms of the scheduling of the development cycle. All right, PayPal owns Braintree. That's good. Okay. Okay, so Jack and Jolly. Bruce, where do you learn Android app development? Do you also use Firebase with Android? Most likely you would. So if I were to build out an app, because I know how to build out my own server, I most likely would not use Firebase for myself. It's a little limiting. But if you don't know how to build out your own server, hook it up to MySQL, Firebase is a good option. And I'll be making more Firebase videos in the future. Okay. Is it okay to look at tutorials on YouTube videos while on the job, or is it better to have everything on your USB drive and look at that for referencing? I don't think most companies have a limit on what you can do at the job in terms of learning. If they're trying to prevent you from learning, I think that's someplace that you don't want to be in. And it's 2017. Most people learn through videos nowadays. Just try not to like hop from video to video and not do your job. I would rather have someone watch a YouTube tutorial video than to just sit on their asses and not do anything the entire day. Yeah, question for you guys. Do you want more Firebase videos? Do you want more Android videos? You may want to try on Wix. Yeah. I think Wix is just like, what's that other really famous platform called for website building? The one that has ads everywhere. I can't remember the name. Okay, how many people do we have left? All right, so 60 YouTubers on the stream currently. And yeah, we're gonna end today, maybe soonish. What do you think about Google acquires Fabric? Interesting that they're all coming together to make a easier and more concise platform for developers to use. For the most part, I don't like interacting with the Google platform for developing. Something about it, I think because Google is such a huge platform that when you go into the Google Developer Console, you are, they toss like, okay, here's the developer login, right? you log in and bam, you get like 50 different options for 49 things that you don't even want to click into. So now if the Google Developer Console looks like that, and now you have this other subset of Twitter tools. I just don't want to be like, if I want to use Crashlytics or if I want to use Digits, I don't want to have to log into the Google Developer Console. There's just way too many things in there. Okay. So how about making your own server? Is that something you would do in the Twitter series? So I don't know yet. The thing I want to do with the Twitter series is to provide you guys with an API that you can call to fill out the Twitter feeds. And I haven't really decided on whether or not to show how the server is built. Because building on a server is more complex than just building out an iPhone app. It's not hard, but it just takes more time. All right, so we have another purchase on the website. So can you guys take a guess? Yeah. All right. So who wants to guess how many purchases that Kindle course, the basic training course, has received over the past like 15 days when it was launched? So I'm pretty happy with the amount of people that are purchasing that basic training course. And the reason I'm really happy about it is because, first of all, I didn't think it was going to be as, I don't know, maybe not popular is probably not the right word, but a lot of people are actually purchasing that the course. And so it is more than 20 visionary. It is also more than 35. It is not as much as 1225. And then soon when I update the website again, we'll have a count as to how many students have purchased the courses. So not 250 either. That would be, what is that? Would that be $5,000 if it was at $20 a course? That would be, is that $5,000? That sounds like a lot. 250, yeah, that does sound like a lot. So the official count for the amount of purchases for the course would be, what would it be? So I keep track of all these numbers, obviously. And let's see how many rows we have in the database. So we have currently 64 purchases of the course. And the course was released, I think January 3rd or so. And there was some pricing and some other things that had fixed. But currently 64 students have enrolled in the basic training course, which is good. Which is really good. So any of you guys that are having questions or think that some things should change on that course, leave the comments and questions in that video. Make sure to leave it in that video so I know exactly what video you guys are watching. There's also that questions area on the website that you can visit, but that's kind of more meant for more generic questions. So what I'm talking about is this right here. So I get all these questions right here. And like I said, this is more generic information. And then if you guys want to leave comments down here in the video page, hopefully it loads. So there's this section right here. So everything obviously looks very similar to YouTube. Yeah. Question for you guys. what kind of course do you want to see next on the website? And obviously it's going to be paid. And so Sid says to make a course on server side. How many of you guys would actually purchase a server side course? And what language would you expect to have that server course? Like what particular language do you guys want to learn? Like if I were to make a server side course, I would make it in Node because it's simple, I guess. So Google Go as a server side language. So I use Google Go on my server, and it's like super simple to use Google Go. The thing about Google Go is that I don't think it's as popular as Node. It's not as popular as PHP, and it's not the same as Rails. The reason why I use Google Go is because it comes with statically typed classes and variables, and then it is super fast in terms of multi-threaded performances. And if you want to easily use multi-threading inside of Google Go, you just have to type 2 lines of code, go func, and then it just splits it onto a background thread. You can't do this in Rails, you can't do this in PHP, and then you can't do that in Node. So if you want multi-threaded performance, it's not as easy in these other languages. I mean, you can download these other packages that allow you to do that, but Google Go built out the entire library with multi-threadedness in mind. So it's really easy. The thing about the performance is that all you need is a simple Node server to get the performance that you want. So Node is definitely the top choice right now. I would not, I probably wouldn't use PHP because it takes this LAMP server to have it up and running. For the Node stack, all you need is the Node set of tools and you're good to go. Okay, so we have this question from Jack Jolly right here. I think you're spamming the channel a little bit. So Jack Jolly, my suggestion for you is to don't spam the channel. It's not a good way to get attention, but Mac Mini for programming, making iOS apps. If you can afford a Mac Mini, then go ahead and buy one. I like laptops because they're portable. I have to go home, which is 2 hours away every now and then, and I don't want to take the Mac Mini and then not have a screen with me. Like a dedicated laptop screen is why it's helpful. Jack Jolly, sorry, it is okay, as long as you don't do it again. Is socket programming possible in Xcode? You can download the socket library, but I tried to use the socket package. I found it very difficult to work with because you need to know how socket works on your server as well. So I'm not an expert on sockets. That's a problem. All right, just kind of the conversation. I looked through the questions I found. When I like, how long did it take to be pro at iOS, and how often do you practice a day? So in the early days of iOS programming for me, I had this really big project that I wanted to build out, and it was basically the spinning wheel animation thing on what to eat for lunch, and hooked up the Yelp API, right? And that project, I probably worked on it in the beginning, like 8 hours a day on the weekends, because I had this other job that wasn't iOS programming at the time. So on the weekend, I probably spent 8 to 10 hours a day. And then when I would go home from my full-time job after like 5 or 6 o'clock, after dinner, I would work on this until about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So every weekday would be like 4 hours or so. And then on the weekends would be another 8 to 10 hours. And so some of you guys are probably saying, well, don't you have a life? Don't you go out and do anything else other than programming? Well, most of the time I don't do anything else other than programming, which maybe sounds a little bit sad, but I don't, I don't play video games. I don't watch TV. Most of the time, my enjoyment comes from building things on, you know, myself, trying to be productive and learn as much as I can. Uh, so in terms of hobbies, I do have my hobbies, but my true hobby is to program and build things. I really, really enjoy being productive. So the thing is that the reason why I don't have a lot of like hobbies is because every time I'm watching a TV show or if I'm outside doing something that is fun, on the back of my head, I'm always thinking about, oh, I could be doing this instead, right? I could be learning how to put this thing together instead. My website could be much better if I had this feature instead of doing this other activity. So my mindset is always programmed towards being super productive and being as like aggressive as possible in terms of putting things out there. So for me to do something else, I always consider the trade-off of doing that other activity. All right, so we have Anand here. I'm an iOS engineer with over a year of experience. I am planning to do master in CS with machine learning specialization. Will this be a good option in the long run? I don't know. I'm not a big believer in school and the educational system. And it's really ironic because most people that don't believe in school have actually graduated from a good school, good program, and a good educational background. So like the same thing with me, I graduated from UC Berkeley, which is a pretty well-known school, right? And the reason why I don't believe in the educational system now is that 10 years later after I've graduated, you really start to understand that school is not important at all. And for those that are really successful in life, they would have been successful regardless of going to school or not. And that's the primary concept that most people start to understand after they graduate. The only thing that allows you to do like education and a degree is that most people recognize the degree as, oh, you're really good at following instructions from people. You're really good at conforming to people's commands. Whenever you're told to do something, you're really good at doing that particular task. So the degree is sort of a reflection of you as kind of a robot in certain ways. People like robots. People like hiring good listeners and hiring people that just are automatically going to do whatever they tell them to do. So that's kind of what a degree says about you, right? Grades themselves are a reflection of how well you are able to follow a certain curriculum and to be able to test how well you memorized this particular knowledge set. And so the education system it's flawed, right? Most of if you think about what the education system is, basically it's a mindset and mentality that enables society to turn out a large subset of people that are really good at, being 9-to-5 employees. Educational system does this for you. And a society really, it needs to have 9-to-5 people to make sure that, the roads are built out correctly, the accounting systems are able to help you balance the accounting sheets. And it has to do all of this stuff that entrepreneurs are, not really required for these jobs. Like if everyone was an entrepreneur, I don't think the society would run as well. Not to say that it runs really well right now. But the education system is something that you really have to think about what the goals of a school, like what kind of goals does a school set for itself? Basically, they want to make as much money off the students as possible. And that's based on things like graduating students. A student that pays for graduate school is going to be earning you more money. All this stuff about just money. Schools are businesses. And for the most part, it's going to treat you, the student, like something that they can make money off of. So, yeah. All right, so Bruce Nell. I know guys who left school, awesome developers, and no degree. I think if I skipped out on school, so I went to school for about 6 years, and if during that 6 year time frame, if I had worked on being a developer, learning how to program on my own, I think I would have been far more ahead. Uh, Instead of taking classes like philosophy, learning how to use a circuit board, even that's relatively useless for me. And just the entire 6 years of wasting my time just doing random school related things, a huge waste of time. So, okay, interesting question. What was my GPA in college? So I believe I had a 3.05 or 3.1, or was it a 2.9? I can't remember exactly what my GPA was. Definitely not anywhere near what a good college student had at the time. I know when I was graduating college, all my friends had like 3.5, 3.6 GPAs. And you start to question yourself, what am I doing wrong, right? Why am I getting lower grades? Is because I'm not as smart as these students are? The answer to that is, yeah, in terms of that college, you're not grading yourself, or you're not being gauged on that scale. You're not registering as well on that scale. Yeah, so Alec Williams says, hard to tell someone else how to live their lives. Yeah, that is good point there. So I guess I'll just say that if I were to do it all over again, I would probably, let's see, would I go to school? I don't know. I don't really know. Okay, so I'm in high school. I'm not sure if I will have a normal job or if I will be an independent developer. Should I get a degree if I will be an independent developer? Like I said, the degree is helpful if you, what is it? Why is it helpful? I don't even know. Yeah. Okay, so about the degree question, I've had the opportunity to interview interns, interview junior developers, and also interview senior developers, right? And the last thing I ever look at is what school they went to. And then when they list out their GPA on their resumes, I barely pay attention to that. Because I myself, I've been through school and I know certain people just don't do well in school. The thing I do focus on a lot is their portfolio. If they have a really good portfolio of apps, and when I ask them questions about their, past experience, they have to be able to answer all those questions with an intelligent answer. And that's what I look for. I don't care so much about the schools. Like obviously, if someone graduated from MIT, you're gonna want to hire this MIT student, right? But for the most part, schools to me, that's important, but it's not the deciding factor. Yep, so Arvid Snyder, it would be your parents' decision until you are 16 and 18. That's true. And then after 18, you'll find that your parents will still try to make you do things that they try to make you follow conventional wisdom. And if you are a millennial, your parents, their generation is the generation coming off of the baby boomers, which comes off of the Depression era. So the Depression era, everyone was really conservative about money and saving money. And the baby boomers generation, this generation was all about finding your passion in life because, we're no longer in a depression. It's more about finding your own true happiness, whatever that means. And then now the millennial generation is coming off of, oh, maybe finding your own passion and happiness in life isn't as easy and isn't as fulfilling as people thought it was. So depending on what your parents, what generation they're coming from, it's going to heavily impact what conventional wisdom is. Do you recommend to someone that changed career and it is a new iOS developer? I would recommend anyone that's interested in learning iOS development to join a bootcamp. If you're not able to pass the bootcamp, the 12 weeks course, then you're probably not going to do well as a developer. And it's not the technical skills that you're being graded on or being taught at a development bootcamp. It's more about the scheduling of all of the tasks that you have to complete. The bootcamp, the actual course itself is not hard. It's not that difficult to, like for me, if I were to, do everything in the bootcamp, it wouldn't take 12 weeks. And in certain cases, I find the bootcamp schedule is actually not as jam-packed as it should be. But the idea is the bootcamp is going to teach you how to manage your time. And time management is the more important key here. What's your comment on Christian Leitner leaving Apple? Will that hinder any progress in Swift? I don't think so. Swift is pretty advanced and pretty mature. It's quite mature already. I just don't think that him leaving is going to make a huge impact on the language and Apple in general. Okay. In my opinion, try for a coding bootcamp, yes. You're spending like 10 hours a day coding, also learning stuff like Git. Yeah, the bootcamp is really helpful because they teach you many, many different stacks and different verticals. And you get exposed to what a typical engineering workday looks like. So committing code, working with other team members on what features to build out, talking about what your feature set needs to look like, following the instructor's directions on whatever topic you need to learn, and that's all extremely helpful. That's kind of why I would recommend anyone that's interested in joining a bootcamp to join a bootcamp. Okay, cool. That's very nice and helpful. Yes. Thank you, Alik K? Mr. Williams, I guess I'll call you. Alex, is that? I don't know how to pronounce it. Alec? Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Another question. What will be the next App Store VR apps and what do you think? Well, I don't know. What do you think about Swift for the backend? It's interesting. We'll have to see in a year or two on how easy it is to launch the Swift server code onto a platform such as Heroku, EC2, and like Docker or something. Which isn't going to be a problem. Do you recommend an iOS coding bootcamp for someone in high school and going to 8 hours a day? Well, first of all, the bootcamp is not going to accept someone that's going to high school. Just because the hours don't make sense. Yep, you'll need to be out of high school. Thank you, Drew Whiskas. Then we have another thing from Alik. It's Alik, I think. Oh, that's impossible. Yes, that is impossible. What are my chances as a developer if I learn bootcamp? I have learned only C as of now. Average package of the same. So being a developer requires you to be constantly learning new languages, and then requires you to learn one language really, really well over a couple of years. All right, so from Duncan Changfoot. Hey, Duncan. Can you teach yourself what people learn at big corporations? When do you decide you are skilled enough to become a freelance consultant? Great question. So My recommendations for anyone that wants to become a freelancer or a consultant or a contractor is to work in the industry for a couple of years first. You won't really know what a feature set looks like and what the engineering timeline for a feature looks like until you've worked at a company that is able to produce these features and these packages for their customers. And you also don't get a sense as to what a business model looks like. The most important thing you'll learn at a company is that sales revenue is what pushes feature development. And as an engineer, I can easily see people building out features that don't make any sense and that won't generate any revenue. So make sure you know how the cash model works for the company. Do you recommend Unity or not? Unity is great for building on games. I myself, I don't know how to use Unity all that much. I remember opening the tutorial for Unity and I found it kind of overwhelming at first. Why you overlooked my questions? Jubar Hussein. So one recommendation for you, Jubar, is to know that no one is purposely ignoring you. When you put comments like this onto a channel, why are you overlooking my questions? It doesn't come off well, or doesn't give you the impression that you leave isn't all that great. What is the worst situation you have been in? A job, coding project, I mean. So the worst situation I've been in is joining a company that I didn't understand the software, and also I didn't really feel the passion to learn the software, use the software at all. And what happens is if you don't have the passion for the software, your feature set that you're building out doesn't reflect yourself in the best light. And my recommendation is to join a company where the software package, the thing that the company is building out, the software, is something that you'll look forward to using every day. I know that's kind of idealistic, but try not to be somewhere that you don't want to be. I was there a couple of years. I was at a place for a couple of years that I didn't enjoy, and probably one of my biggest mistakes of not leaving sooner. People need to be challenged so they won't be lazy and bored. This is the best practice to learn a lot by yourself. Yeah. So here's one thing I would say about this channel, this whole website, and even doing this live stream. Setting up all this stuff to gain all of these, to get all of the subscribers, to record the videos, build out the website, put up these source code zip files, uploading all of this content to somewhere without anyone paying you any money. If you're someone that likes to do this kind of stuff, you're going to be able to learn, you're going to be a good programmer because you have the initiative to just make something out of nothing. Engineering is all about the magic of being productive, even though you don't really know what the end goal is. So the YouTube channel, I don't know what the end goal is. I still don't. What I want to be able to do is to put out content out there so that people can enjoy how to program, like the way I enjoy how to program. And the end goal, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But YouTube is a very good platform as long as this channel keeps growing, which it's growing at a phenomenal rate right now. A lot more subscribers are joining the channel now, and I've been able to help people out, which is what I want to do. Okay, question is, where is the bootcamp you teach at? So I taught at this place called Mobile Makers, which was a company acquired by, what's the other one called? I can't remember what the name is. What's that other famous bootcamp called in San Francisco? It's not Makers School, but it's the one that does the web development stuff. And so they were acquired, and then due to some other, I guess, goals of the CEO of Mobile Makers, is now a bootcamp for college or high school students instead. So it's not a bootcamp for high school, but they have a separate division now that teaches high school students, and they're building out curriculum for high school students. Basically, they're changing the target from adults to high school students earlier on in their careers. Dev Bootcamp. It's the one that's owned by the guy that used to work at Twitter. Dev Bootcamp? I don't remember what it's called. Okay, another question here. Can I be a decent programmer if I don't like coding too much? Enough to have a coding job, I mean a salary, just enough to not be unemployed. So good Python here. Oh, that's sad. That's a very depressing question. So if you change the engineering topic to something like being able to cook, right? Being a chef. So let's just change this question and swap in a couple of words. Can I be a decent chef if I don't like cooking too much? Enough to have a cooking job, a semi-chef job, I mean a salary, just enough to not be employed. So if you're a chef at a restaurant and you don't like cooking, would you recommend people to trust the food that comes out of your restaurant, comes out of your kitchen? Think about that one. Kareem James. Okay, can you put together a self-study curriculum list that boot campers should know? You don't have to actually teach or explain them, but if there is a blueprint, we can find the information on our own. Yeah, I've thought about putting out a 12 weeks course on what you need to learn as someone that wants to be an iOS developer. So basically, that is the Kindle, the basic training course thing. Let's see. Okay, so let me just go back to the course here, if I can. So my connection is really slow when I'm streaming. But basically, the course outlines how to use. Oh God. Yeah, whenever my connection is slow, I experience this problem. Okay, advance. Proceed, unsafe. Okay, so the server is secure. It's just when I'm streaming, it's not secure because it's not able to find the SSL certificate properly. But so the course goes through some basics such as if statements and for loops, and then we go through how to use a table view to present some objects. And some of these objects are these custom classes that you have to make. And then we have how to use a collection view to present, some kind of page swiping behavior. And then at the very end, we go through how to parse JSON and retrieve data using the internet, and then processing this bit of data. And so, teaching this bootcamp in San Francisco, most of what you need to know from this bootcamp is inside of this course. And it's whatever, $20. You don't need to buy it if you don't want to. And most of this content is already available on the YouTube channel already anyways. It's just not presented in a easy consumable pattern like this. So this course right here, if you don't want to purchase it, don't purchase it. But look through the outline sections and what each one of these videos teach you, and just go find the content online yourself and try to teach you these patterns and teach yourself these components that are being used. And then at the very end of the course, if you're able to do all of this stuff to make your own app, you're going to be in a really good place to start the bootcamp. And you're going to find that the bootcamp just teaches you this anyways. So, maybe you don't need to go to the bootcamp if you know how to do all this yourself. I'm more about self-learning as a developer. If you're able to teach yourself how to do something, you're pretty much set. You don't need to go to a bootcamp at all. All right, so we have. Can you make videos on how to build a custom camera app as Snapchat? Yeah. So I want to put a course out on how to build out and probably not Snapchat because it's pretty difficult to build out Snapchat. But I want to put out a course that teaches you guys how to use the camera, upload photos to the server, and then get the photos back. Perhaps I'll use Firebase to teach something like that. Yeah. So let's see. How much bigger can I be? Okay. What does that look like? How's the stream quality, by the way? I can never tell because I'm behind. It seems like it's lagging a little bit for me. Probably the audio and the video is not in sync. Tyler Rutt, do you like software or mobile development better? Well, mobile development is sort of software development, but I get your question. So developing a app such as maybe like the Xcode editor, right? That's what you would consider software development. And then trying to build out like the Photoshop app, or what else is there? Like the mail app for Mac. That's probably what you mean by software development. And I think mobile development is a lot more fun for me because I have the physical device in my hand. I can just use it whenever I open my phone up. It just shows up, right? You just open up your app. You don't need a computer to run the program. So it's more fun for me. But at the same time, being able to write your own Mac OS apps, that's a lot of fun too. All right, so Zog says, just use Firebase Facebook login tutorial today, and it was useful, thank you. Well, you're very welcome. The login stuff is sometimes really hard to, the documentation is sometimes hard to follow. So being able to watch someone just integrate the Facebook login is helpful, I think. All right, for the stream, it's okay, smooth and no lag at all. So I recently upgraded my internet package so that I can upload or stream a lot better. So hopefully it's helping. I think I have the video set on 1080p, which is the quality that looks good on everyone's screen here. And then I'm actually streaming directly from my DSLR camera, so that's why you'll notice that the quality is better than the webcam that I was using before. Yeah. Okay. Can you give a brief description for what is needed to make a video voice call app? Yeah. I haven't built a voice calling app before. Video app I've built, but it's hard to capture the video stream onto your device and then uploading it to some kind of server somewhere. And then later on, making sure that you can process that MP4 stream correctly. All right. Hey, Alex. Good to see you again. Hope you have enjoyed that basic Kindle course. Watching through my Apple TV. Wow. I didn't know you can watch streams on Apple TV. That's pretty awesome. I guess I have to check out myself later on to see how this all looks. Why do I enjoy iOS development over Android? I don't necessarily do, actually. I like Android development a lot. So I guess I'll name a couple of things that's different about the two development environments. So iOS, you'll find it a lot easier to code in Swift because the language is a lot more concise and it's more modern, right? Inside of Java, you have to write a lot of code to do certain things, which the code generator helps you a lot but it's more verbose in terms of writing everything out. One thing that's good about Android development is that the layout system is a lot easier to work with. There's no such thing as constraints because the layout system makes a lot of sense, and you'll find that the elements just lay themselves out properly without you configuring it so much. All right, so Anand Kumar, please make a Node course on your website. I will buy it, and sure many other students will be willing to do so. Yeah. 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 So one thing that's hard about the courses on my website is figuring out what price they should be priced at. I want to price them as low as possible so that everyone can purchase them. So I'm hoping to price these courses really, really low for you guys. Yeah. Because obviously making money is nice, but not my top priority right now. Okay, so Kenny Gunderman, what's more of a challenge, Android or iOS development? Good question. What is more challenging, iOS or Android? There are many different challenges for each one of these platforms, but I don't think there's a winner here in terms of challenging. I mean, I like challenges. So one challenging part about iOS development is trying to publish your app sometimes. You require this approval process, which can be good or bad. And then it takes a week to have your app published onto the App Store. For the Android platform, you push your app, you change the build number, and then it just permeates to all the cloud servers, and then you have your new app up in like 30 minutes or so. Or all the servers have your new app, and then you can choose to update it. So that part about Android development is, it's nice. You don't have to worry about releasing a buggy version and having to wait another couple of days or 7 days to fix that bug. You don't have to worry so much about that. And Kenny Gunderman says that I would buy a Node course for sure. Cool. Seems like a lot of you guys are on the same wavelength in terms of Node, huh? Are you gonna try Realm, and what is your opinion about it? So I haven't used Realm at all. I just know that, I know what it is. I don't see why you would use Core Data right now. I know Core Data is like a bitch to work with because of all the boilerplate code that you have to set up. I think Realm is a lot easier. Okay. Does that mean that Android apps are unsecure? What does Apple look for in their review? So one thing I want to say is that if anyone wants to hack your iOS app and to take the package and, decrypt it, they can. If they want to decrypt your Android file, they can do that as well. If they want to check what kind of server calls you're making to certain APIs, you can see exactly what API calls your Apple iOS devices are making. You can see what API calls your Android apps are making. All very, very easy to do. So in terms of security, like there can be developers on Apple that don't know how to make secure apps. I don't say it's like one way or another, all apps are pretty much not that secure. So Alik Williams, server-side Swift with Katura is like 7 times faster than Node. If the performance is 7 times faster, that's like saying that a car drives 80 miles per hour and then it can also drive like 300 miles per hour. You're probably never going to need to drive faster than 80 or 100 miles per hour, which you know, if you need something that fast, which most people don't, then use a server-side Swift. So the reason why Node is popular and Node is something that you would learn instead is because you can easily put it onto some kind of EC2 stack, yeah, or a Heroku stack. Putting server-side Swift, I don't even know if Heroku supports Swift yet. Okay. All right, so Rajdi asks, how can we check API calls being made? Well, if you set up a proxy that detects exactly what kind of internet calls your apps are making, your devices, you can see what the server calls are, and the proxy tells you exactly what that URL is. And if you want to see what the data is that's coming back from these server calls, the proxy will tell you exactly what the server calls are returning and what the response values are. For the most part, they can be encrypted, but then sometimes you'll find unencrypted information that you can see on the proxy. So it's there's a really good blog post on Realm and how they hacked the Uber. Was it Uber? Could be Uber. They hacked the Uber app or some kind of app, very famous app. Maybe it's Airbnb, and they pretty much were able to reverse engineer all of the API calls and what the patterns were for the Airbnb app or the Uber app. Can't remember which one. Okay. What's up here? Okay. So, all right. So last question here before we go today. Okay, last question. How long did the Shop iOS app take you to make? Well, the Touch of Modern e-commerce app took about 2 months to rewrite from scratch. Or was it 1 month? I think it was a month and a half. And then we wrote the entire thing in Objective-C, made the improvements to the previous app, and then much more performant. And we released it onto the store. A lot of sales improved, user engagement, retention, all improved. Advertisement conversion improved. Pretty much everything went up, right, in terms of performance performance metrics. And after the 2-month period, we further refined and improved the app and introduced other features such as customer support, the ability to change like your credit card information from within the app. I think you can do that. And that took another 2 months. And then later on, we integrated Apple Pay, which I think did pretty well. We saw a huge spike in Apple Pay payments when that came out. Integrating it was a little bit tricky because it was a new piece of technology at the time. All right, we have a Chinese comment here. Wow, Plucky Zero. 你能做一个奖励的茶叶式 Swift 教程吗？能做一个奖励的茶叶式 I don't really know what a 奖励的茶叶式那到底是什么啊？一个教程，其实要就是写一个整个教程啊，这整个 course 的话呢，其实，这个东西呢并不简单啊，因为要准备整个课程呢是需要时间的。那我的时间就是现在这个时间呢、啊，其实越来越多了，可以这么讲。还有可能 以后会写的更多啦，就是有一些 course 呢想要写，但是没有时间。All right. I do I do squats while my simulator loads. I go for pull-ups every few hours, but at home I tend to slack and use bed or couch. Uh, yeah. All right. All right, so let's all have a good day now. Do you believe in God? Good question. We make a video on how to make API manager class, which will do network related tasks, kind of like Alamo Fire. Perhaps in the Twitter series, I'll show you guys how to do all this stuff. What do you think about last announcement of Google Firebase Fabric? I think I answered that question a little bit earlier. I don't like the Google developer console. Just way too much stuff in there that I don't care about. All right, so everyone out there, have a good rest of your day for Sunday of 2017, January 22nd. I hope you guys enjoy the new videos for next week, which should have, I haven't recorded any of the videos yet, which means that I'm a little bit behind schedule. And hopefully you guys will like where the channel is going. Yeah, I'm planning to have a algorithms video every Friday, and that'll be interesting. And I'm thinking about making a binary tree search algorithm that hopefully I can explain in a easy to understand video. All right. Smartwatch coding. Do you like that? All right. So yeah, everyone have a good day. We're going to end today's lesson right here. And then we're going to see each other again, perhaps next week, next Sunday. Maybe. I have to go home because it is Chinese New Year next Sunday. But yeah, hope you guys all have a good day and enjoy yourselves. Bye, guys.